Hello, everyone. We're back again for Legacy Planning Part 2. And this one is centered around things to consider when you want to get your financial foundation in order. And I have Savon Bush of the Law Offices of Savon Bush here to talk about legacy planning. And we talked about last time things to consider when you talk about building generational wealth, the types of trust. And today we want to pick up on that conversation, but personalize it a bit. And the first question that I wanted to ask you was, do you believe that every family needs to have a legacy plan?
Yes, yes. I definitely believe that every family, especially honing in on the word family, yes, because when you're talking about legacy planning, when you're talking about protecting generational wealth, the ultimate inheritors of all of that wealth is going to be your family. And
Mm,
so when you're about getting a will, getting a trust, getting a power of attorney, you want to make sure that your family, not just yourself and your finances, your family and their finances are protected because what we're seeing with the probate process and the probate process, if you don't know about it, it's not something that you want to get to know. What we're seeing with the probate process is literally, and I'm not exaggerating, the destruction of families' finances, financial ruin for a number of different families.
yeah,
And
and
you
I heard that if you don't have a plan, the government has a plan for you, and that's what they go through probate to provide.
Absolutely. If you do not have a plan, it's just like life. Somebody's going to have a plan for you. And probate and protecting your assets while you're alive and while when you pass away, definitely crucial to making sure that generational wealth is protected in your family.
Okay. And when I ask myself the question, does every family need life insurance? The answer is absolutely. For many reasons, like previously stated, is the financial needs are gonna come from somewhere. And with probate, they're gonna go and probe and find where that money comes from. But if you had that financial foundation with life insurance, you have the funds to assign that say, okay, this house is going to be paid off with my life insurance. My child needs my income for the next 18 years. I have my income to replace that through life insurance. And so having these conversations early make it easier for you to have more options and more affordable for you to plan for your future. But it's absolutely necessary for your family to have life insurance too, because the financial burden is going to come if there hasn't been something put in place to cure your family of that.
Absolutely. And Jalinda, I just want to say really quickly. I absolutely hate probate. One of the good things about, one of the many amazing things about life insurance is that life insurance usually is a non-probate asset,
Mm.
meaning that it does not go through probate. So if you want, let's say, for example, that you don't do your due diligence and you don't get a legacy plan, you can still get life insurance. And even though your other assets will pass through the horrors of probate, your life insurance money, for better or worse, will be kept intact.
That's I'm glad you dropped that gem in, but how you said it, you should at least if you get life insurance, I have to urgently remind people too that life insurance is one of those things you have to get before you transition. It's before you need it too. So just like they say you can't get fire insurance once there's a fire, you can't get life insurance once you need it. And so the best part about having being educated and getting this knowledge now is that when you apply for life insurance and you're at your youngest and at your healthiest, it's easier to qualify for it. So to take advantage of what he's speaking of today, it's important to know that you have to have insurance in place before you actually need it to make sure it can skip probate. So thank you for bringing that out too. And this is why we're having this conversation because a legacy plan and life insurance go hand in hand. You can have one without the other, but they work very well together. And so I think that it would be very important for us to explain personally why is it important to have a legacy plan from your own experience? What would you say?
Yes, yes. My firm, we specialize in legacy planning. We also specialize in probate. So we have a unique perspective on both sides of the system. The preventative side, which is the legacy planning side, wills, trusts, powers of attorney, and the reactive side or the reactionary side, which is the probate, right?
Mhm.
Because if you don't have those things, or if those things aren't sufficient, then your assets may go to probate. And so having that unique perspective on the system, what I've learned is that, there are families all across America, with the special exception, as in many other areas, with the special exception of Black families primarily, who are not taking advantage of these planning mechanisms. And so one of my good friends, he told me that, other groups take advantage of legacy planning so frequently that he was actually in the airport and he was just kind of listening in on the white family's discussion. And they were talking about how right before they took the flight, they got their legacy plan done. They did their will, they did their trust over, and they did it especially because they knew they were going on vacation. And the thing is that it says that kind of activity, that kind of behavior says a few things to me. It says that that family is preparing themselves very well, setting themselves up very well for generational wealth, right? It lets me know that there are other families out there who are not so concerned about, what people call the morbid part of legacy planning, thinking about death, all of that kind of stuff, right? We're all going to pass away. And these folks are mature enough to say, look, we all got to go one day. If we happen to go sooner rather than later, we know that we've given our family the best possible shot to be successful, which you can't say about a lot of folks, especially the folks that I work with in probate on a day-to-day. I'm telling you, folks, you don't want to go through this system without having any protection. And so for me personally, this became a calling of mine because I saw how much my family's finances were affected by the lack of planning tools. There's been a number of deaths, misfortunes in my family, where, we're all left, the ones who are left behind, we're all scrambling. We're all trying to figure out who owned what, who had a debt to who. And it's just not a pretty picture, especially when you can create a legacy plan just as easily as, the white folks that I just told you about on that plane did. Literally get your stuff together, know what you want to do, have your directives, and then you get it witnessed, get it signed, and that's it. It's not more than a shot at the doctor's office. And so what I want to do with my platform for as long as I have it is I want to make sure that folks just know that they have options to protect their assets and their hard-earned wealth.
Absolutely. And everything you said, it reminds me of Nipsey Hussle when he said the marathon continues. I think if you think about legacy like a marathon and you're waiting on the person behind you to bring you that pole or that, what is it called? I don't know what it's called, but they're bringing you that piece that you're supposed to collect it and start running faster. But if they drop it, then you got to turn around, go pick it up, then catch up with others. And I think that has been what we've been doing, is just turning around, going to pick it up, digging ourselves back out of debt and going forward and trying to build wealth just to transition and not have a legacy plan in place and starting that cycle right back over. So for myself personally, when we talk about life insurance, I've seen how our families do. Our communities buy life insurance, but it's just we haven't been educated on the options in the financial industry as well to know, okay, it's not just about burial, having enough to bury, but it's about having enough to leave financial options. So it's okay, we can pay off this house, or maybe we don't pay it off, but we can buy a second property. And now this one is creating income for us. We're living in this one and life gets better. So I really think the passion for me comes from seeing it over and over again from my own personal family, where we had elders that say, oh yeah, we got life insurance, that's grown folk business. You'll find out how much when I transition. And to find out the amount they had was enough to pay for half the burial, we still had to raise more for burial. And then there was not enough to pay off the house and things of that nature that they left behind. So these conversations makes me passionate about, okay, not only myself, that even though I do not have any children yet, when I do, they will come into comfort and financial legacy where, okay, they have resources to, hey, I know I want to start a business. Well, your mother has already started building this up for you. Your parents have already thought about this. That's where the passion for me comes from and why I purchased life insurance. And so I thought it was important for us to know, in our community to know, is not only do we educate on this, but we act on it. We have friends, family, and community that have seen us apply our passion of financial literacy. So the last topic that I wanted to leave for this video is the terms that you should know of when it comes to having a conversation with a legacy planning attorney, or when you're talking to a life insurance agent. What are those terms you should know of or be familiar with, and what do they mean? Would you like to tap into that? And I'll tell my terms for insurance afterwards.
Absolutely. And again, the worlds of life insurance and legacy planning, they go so well together, so much so that the terms overlap in
Yeah.
a lot. So one of the most keywords that you need to know in the legacy planning space is the word beneficiary, right? Beneficiary is a person who is going to benefit from your legacy plan. That's one term. Another term that you need to know is trustee. A trustee is somebody who you put in charge of a trust that has to follow your directions that you leave behind in that trust. Another word that I would say you definitely need to know, it's actually two words that kind of mean the same thing, but inheritance, right? And also bequest.
Mm.
So a bequest is what somebody gives you, an inheritance that they give you. An inheritance, as we already know, is your inheritance. On another video, I talked about a trustscape. A trustscape is your trust's landscape. That's the directions that you leave behind in the trust and what your trustee has to do. So those are some key terms that I can just think of that I think would help anybody who's trying to navigate our spaces.
Yes, and I always bring up the trustgate, but I never knew the term for it. But it's that conversation of when someone with me, if they say, "Hey, I want a life insurance policy, but I don't want to just make my child rich and leave them $100,000 and they do whatever they want with it, blow money fast." Well, a trustgate would be the design of your trust that says, "No, I'm not just leaving you 100,000. You're going to get 10,000 every year that can go to assets of buying property. You'll get another 10,000 that'll go towards housing and where you will live and things of that nature." You can put that in the trustscape of trust. So, okay, I'm learning now. I'm glad you brought that out. And I did have one other question for you about the trustee. Now, let me understand this. When someone picks a trustee, can they let their lawyer or attorney be the trustee, or does it have to be a family member?
Yes, yes. So the lawyer can absolutely be the trustee of a trust. In fact, my firm also services trusts and the needs of trusts. And so a lawyer is a great person to have as a fiduciary, right? A fiduciary is another word that folks need to know. That's pretty much the person who's financially responsible
Mm-hmm.
for things like that. The lawyer can act as a fiduciary for the trust, and you can trust your lawyer because we either helped you create the trust and we know exactly
Yeah.
what you find when you were creating certain things, when you had certain orders and directions put in place. And also, if there's any kind of foul play that's happening with the trust, you can both hold your lawyer accountable, and your lawyer can definitely, find out what the issue is happening with the trust. So great watchdog mechanism if you appoint a lawyer as a trustee.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that people knew they had those options, because I work with a lot of individuals when it comes to even choosing a beneficiary, and then sometimes they can't even choose one person. They're like, "Man, I don't know who I want to leave this money to." So then who would they choose to be a trustee if they don't believe they can trust their family, parents, siblings, and things of that nature? It's good to know they have the option of their lawyer. And like you mentioned, a lot of the terms you mentioned do come right over to the life insurance side. So the beneficiary, absolutely, the person who's going to benefit from your life insurance. You, the insured, is the person that is covered by the life insurance, the person who medically, lifestyle, age, and gender qualify for that life insurance. You're the insured. The owner is the person who gets to make the decisions about the policy. I think it's so important for people to understand that the only way someone would know the amount of life insurance you have on you is if you told them, because the insurance company won't talk to anyone else. They'll only talk to the owner. It doesn't matter if the owner isn't the payer. they will only talk to the owner. So the payer is the person who pays for the life insurance, and 9 times out of 10, it is the owner. But even if the owner is not the payer, they still have the most power. And then last but not least is the policy types. The top 3 policy types that you should know and be aware of is term insurance. Usually you can get that on your job, but it will be a term insurance, and that's a temporary type of life insurance. Whole life insurance is the other type that's going to cover you all the way to age 121. And IUL is Index Universal Life Insurance. It acts like whole life, but it really is still just term insurance that you have to gradually keep up and pay fees on. So it's important to know these terms. And if you do have questions on them, reach out. Reach out for this trust and legacy planning questions and insurance planning questions so that you can really find and be empowered by the information we're sharing to take action on it. Because I think it's great that we have this information free to you on social media, but if you don't act on it, it's just loose information.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I enjoyed speaking about all things legacy planning with you and life insurance with you, Jalinda. So yes.
Awesome. Well, this is part 2. Stay tuned. We're going to keep this going to share more information and make this information very available to our community. We'll have our information and contact information on this next screen. So any questions, feel free to reach out to us.